Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Thursday, October 9th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming to you from the WellPoint Studios here in downtown Lowell. Joined today, as you saw by my opening shot there, once again, the empty chair, my favorite and most recurring guest, I guess, here on the Daily Pulse. What can I say? I'm a little bit of a space shot. My weekends get away from me. I forget to book guests, and here I am alone lecturing you. But this provides me an opportunity to have a little fun today while also touching on a couple of subjects from the news over the last couple of weeks that I wanted to touch on, including a report by my good friend, the State Auditor Diana DiZoglio, regarding Mass Save. I want to delve into that a little bit because people were shocked, I tell you, at the findings behind the audit of Mass Save. So we'll get into all that and a couple of other energy-related topics, which naturally I'm going to tick you and the YouTube censors off with. But first, let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsors, Ray Booten. He is a licensed realtor in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. He is a certified appraiser in both of those states as well. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, you need to find Ray today. And you can find him easily enough online at realestaterayBooten.com. That's realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. It's the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, WellPoint. Some other sponsors we want to thank as well. But first, let's go right to the headlines from yesterday. And we're actually going to go across the country to California, where an arrest was made in that Palisades Fire. Do you remember that earlier in the year, the fire that burnt down? Let me get the stats here. 23,000 acres of land. Destroyed more than 7,000 structures, with most of those structures being people's homes, and caused an estimated $25 billion in damages. And by the way, take the over on that when all is said and done, because there are people who still can't get permitted in the state of California to rebuild their homes that got burnt down in that fire. But anyway, it was a big fire. It was a huge news headline. It touched off a firestorm. What's new between President Donald Trump and California Governor and presumed presidential candidate in 2028, Gavin Newsom. This time they weren't fighting over who had the best hair, but they were fighting over who was to blame for the fire raging out of control and so on and so forth. But again, the Palisades Fire burned 23,000 acres, destroyed more than 7,000 structures, and caused $25 billion in damages. And if you listened to the news headlines at the time, you read them, you watched your network news, you listened to some of the politicians, it was climate change that led to all of that damage and all of that destruction. Climate change. Well, yesterday, authorities made an arrest in that fire. No, they didn't arrest climate change or man-made climate change. They apparently still are on the run. But let's go to the news headlines, shall we? From the Los Angeles Times, of all places. Palisades, of course, burnt down ritzy sections of Los Angeles. And the headline reads, "Son of missionaries accused of setting destructive Palisades fire." Son of missionaries accused of setting destructive Palisades fire. There go those religious zealots again, right? Son of missionaries, a religious zealot. He set that fire. Of course, you told us 9 months ago it was climate change that started the fire and made the fires worse and whatnot, right? But what's interesting there is you saw the photo I put up, right? We'll put it up one more time for you. Man, climate change sure does look an awful lot like your typical angry Marxist leftist white boy, doesn't it? I mean, look at that. If the headline read, "Walks into a church and opens fire," walks into a school and opens fire, gets on the roof of a structure and opens fire at a presidential candidate or a person speaking on a college campus, you'd probably, in your mind, imagine that the person would look like this, right? That is your typical violent person today. You're a leftist, anarchist, Marxist hater who gets violent. In this case, he got violent with people. Now, people lost their homes, and I do believe many people died in that Palisades fire. And the arrest was made. And again, all of these are allegations. We must say the alleged arsonist, the alleged person behind it. But let's look a little bit more into this, the son of the missionaries, because they don't really want to tell you, certainly not the Los Angeles Times, what may have inspired this son of missionaries to light the fire, and why I tell you he's your typical angry Marxist leftist white young male. Okay? Let's put away our news headline for a second here, and let's go right to the charging documents from the court. Now, the area I've highlighted, which says he's talking to ChatGPT, looking for some prompts. And he says in the ChatGPT prompt, I literally burnt the Bible that I had. It felt amazing. It felt so liberated. Now, you know, I can get that, right? If you're the son of missionaries, you may have bounced around. My understanding was he spent time in France and may have considered himself as much a French citizen as a U.S. citizen. The Bible thumping might get a little bit old. The reading from the scriptures, the attending masses and whatever, I can imagine it might get kind of old and you want to break free from it. You don't believe what your parents believe, whatever. So you burn a Bible and you feel liberated and you break free. 100% understandable. I can get that. And certainly that's the part that, you know, the son of missionaries was looking at. But let's dive a little further into more of this person's ChatGPT experiences, shall we? On July 11th, 2024, Rinderknecht, the name of the suspect, the alleged arsonist, provided the following prompt to ChatGPT. Quote, a dystopian painting divided into distinct parts that blend together seamlessly. On the far left, there is a burning forest. Next to it, a crowd of people is running away from the fire, leading to the middle. In the middle, hundreds of thousands of people in poverty are trying to get past a gigantic gate with a big dollar sign on it. On the other side of the gate and the entire wall is a conglomerate of the richest people. They are chilling, watching the world burn down, and watching the people struggle. They are laughing, enjoying themselves, and dancing. The scene is detailed and impactful, highlighting the stark contrast and the direct, and then it goes on to the next page, but we'll end it there. Do you see now why I'm telling you this was your typical angry leftist Marxist individual? Sure, probably mad at mom and dad for making him read the Bible or reading the Bible to him one too many times, but this kid is a Marxist. There he is. He wants ChatGPT. He wants AI to create a picture of him. And by the way, the pictures were also published. You can find them all over the news and social media of ChatGPT complying with this person's wishes and creating a world where these poor people are burned down while the rich people just laugh at them and enjoy their pain and their suffering. Isn't that your typical socialist / Marxist ideology? Isn't that what AOC and Bernie Sanders and pretty much most of the hijacked Democratic Party today are telling you is going on? Of course, interesting that the kid who is so upset about what the rich people are doing to these poor people who are trying to run away from the fire actually did was light the fire? Can you understand how a little bit mentally ill this person's thought process must be? Personally, I think if he thinks Marxism is the answer, he's mentally ill right off the bat. But if he is in his right mind and Marxism is the answer, the way you're going to demonstrate to the world is the plight of poor people is by lighting a fire that kills. Poor people. Now, granted, the fire was lit in some of the ritzier areas of Los Angeles, so maybe that's why he targeted that area as opposed to others, right? Instead of going into some of the more or the less wealthy urban areas. I don't know. I can't make sense of a lunatic, let alone a leftist Marxist-leaning one. But again, remember, this is the fire that they blamed on climate change 9 months ago. And now we see that climate change, once again, looks like an angry leftist. Much like the people lighting fires in my parents' homeland of Greece, where they've had fires throughout the last several years, all of them started via arson. If you're so concerned about the planet, can you stop lighting fires? Find other ways to maybe protest? You know, get on a flotilla with Greta Thunberg if you can. Maybe that's a little better way of showing it. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a dumb podcast host. This edition of the InsideLowell Daily Pulse, the Thursday, October 9th edition of the Daily Pulse, brought to you by Ray Booten, licensed realtor in Mass and New Hampshire. Find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to WellPoint for hosting us here in the WellPoint studios at WellPoint. Your whole health is their whole point. While we're at it, let's thank the rest of our InsideLowell podcast sponsors, shall we? Washington Savings Bank, banking that goes the extra mile. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, TMI Cares, managing and developing their own properties for over 30 years, experience the quality, the care, and the value of making TMI the choice for your home. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to generations of families in Greater Lowell since 1925. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in our communities through strategic, impactful philanthropy. By the way, I think yesterday on the Daily Pulse, I gave you the wrong date. I said October 15th for their Celebrate Giving event at 5 p.m. at UTEC. It's actually October 22nd. My apologies to everyone over there at the Greater Lowell Community Foundation, because I'm a little bit old and senile and I forget my dates sometimes. It was October 22nd. Anyway, grab your tickets. It's a fun event and it's honoring some great people this year. Last but certainly not least, let me thank our friends at Francis C. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell has counted on to insure its most valuable assets since 1982. All right. I've been wanting to talk about this for a couple of weeks now because on September 29th, the Massachusetts State Auditor, Diana DiZoglio, you are familiar with her. She's been trying to audit the legislature and gaining no headway as the obstructionist politicians try to battle her. You also know that I've known her forever. I consider her a friend. I think she considers me a friend, maybe. After today's podcast, maybe not. But she released an audit of the Mass Save program. Now, the Mass Save program is a program where you may have noticed this line item on your energy bill when you get your National Grid bill or whoever provides your electricity. You see this line. It's a fee that you pay to Mass Save. And Mass Save ostensibly gives rebates to people to make their homes, their properties, whatever, more energy efficient. And you're paying to make your home more energy efficient. Well, let's read from the audit, shall we? Auditor DiZoglio finds that residents of 48 out of 175 Massachusetts municipalities with incomes below the state median contribute more to Mass Save than the state average. Many residents of EJ municipalities, that's environmental justice municipalities, and gateway cities, aka Lowell, Lawrence, etc., disproportionately contributed more to Mass Save than residents of other municipalities, aka the more rich municipalities, with residents in communities with over 90% environmental justice populations contributing on average 151% more per capita compared to municipalities without environmental justice populations. Furthermore, residents in gateway cities contributed approximately 24% more per capita than those in non-gateway cities, despite having considerably lower household incomes and getting fewer Mass Save benefits than higher income communities. A lot of fancy jargon there, a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, but in essence, what the auditor is telling you is that poor people in Massachusetts, you're subsidizing rich people's quote unquote energy savings. Make no mistake about it, you are paying for it. Which is kind of a microcosm of the entire, climate change mitigation movement, right? Where do most of these climate mitigation measures take place? Well, you heard from the Mass Save program, certainly going to more affluent communities, AKA more wealthy people, not the poor people who could probably use it the most, the environmental justice communities. A ton of that money is going to the seacoast, right? Right, where the water is rising, Boston Harbor, right? The beaches and whatnot, the coastal areas, the Cape and whatnot. I don't own a home up there. I don't know too many people who do. The ones I do, they're pretty wealthy. Lowell public school teachers, a whole bunch of them, but that's a topic for another day. But when you're mitigating man-made climate change, chances are you're mitigating it on more affluent coastal communities or more affluent inland communities. The auditor found that. She didn't put it in that wording, but let's be honest, that's what she's telling you. If you have over 90% environmental justice population, are contributing an average 151% more per capita compared to municipalities without these populations. And gateway cities are contributing 24% more than non-gateway cities, despite you having lower household incomes and getting fewer Mass Save benefits. In other words, the Mass Save benefits are going to the richer communities far more often than the poorer communities. Now, again, I love you, State Auditor DiZoglio, but did you really need to do an audit to find that out? I could have told you that. Hell, I've been telling you that forever. You're subsidizing rich people's protecting their properties and getting their energy savings while poor people can't do it. Now, it's not a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise. I certainly didn't expect it to be any different when I saw the Mass Save program rolled out and the way it's rolled out. I don't know if anybody else did, but if you did, you were naive and foolish to think it was going to work any other way except that you were going to be subsidizing rich people. And why do I mean that? Well, let's dive a little bit into Mass Save and let's take away our environmentally conscious person who lights forest fires and go right to the Mass Save website, and there you have it right there. One of the ways you can participate in Mass Save and enjoy rebates and savings is by installing Energy Star windows. Those are the most environmentally friendly and rated windows. Energy Star windows. They are, quote, the most efficient certified windows. And if you install them, Mass Save will give you $75 per window to upgrade your single pane windows to these most efficient windows. Sounds like quite a bargain, doesn't it? They're going to give you $75 for every window if you change them out. Why wouldn't people flock to this Mass Save program? You want to pay less in energy every year. I certainly do. I'm getting walloped every winter with my heating bill. I want energy pane windows. And Mass Save, AKA you, the taxpayer, the ratepayer, the resident, the citizen of Massachusetts, is subsidizing this program through your higher electric bill, right? Why aren't more people flocking to this? Well, $75, big money, isn't it, per window? Say you got 10, 20 windows on your house. I probably have more than 20 of various sizes. But anyway, let's delve a little further, shall we? What is the cost of an Energy Star certified window? Well, according to our AI search here, including the professional installation, ranges from $400 to $3,000 per window. Though you can get some for under $300 with simpler designs, and others that will cost over $1,500. Of course, the price varies based on the window size, style, frame material, number of panes, yada, 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 yada. So Mass Save is giving you $75 for every window, while the typical window costs $400 to $3,000. Does the math add up for poor people? In other words, despite the fact that Mass Save is getting you $7,500, and let's take that lower end, you've got to pay $400 per window. Well, if you have to install 10 new windows, that's a $4,000 cost, of which 10 times 400, of which Mass Save will give you $75 per window, aka $750. In other words, this will still cost you $3,250 in the cheapest scenario that we're going with, of the typical cheapest scenario. Now you want to upscale it or look at different sizes where the window may cost you $3,000 and you got 10 windows. Now you're looking at a $30,000 project, but hey, Mass Save will give you $750. So you only have to pay $29,250. Well, duh. Who can afford to do that? Yeah, Karen and Bob out in Concord and Carline. Not Joe and Susan in Lowell's Acre neighborhood or in Lawrence or wherever. No kidding. You needed an audit? We needed State Auditor Diana DiZoglio to come in here and tell us this program wasn't working for poor people, for the most disadvantaged, for the people living in the poorer communities. We needed an audit to tell us that. You couldn't figure it out by the simple math, you dolts. I mean, the legislature didn't get this. The energy committees didn't get this. The governors didn't understand this was going to happen. The idiot podcaster and talk radio host told you this is what's going on. All these brain surgeons with their environmental think tanks at their disposal and the environmental advocacy groups couldn't figure it out. Duh, it's common math, the kind my son is finally learning how to do in 3rd grade. If it costs $3,000 per window, or even $400 per window, and you're only getting $75 for that window, if you're poor, you're not replacing that freaking window. You don't have the money to do it all at once. And if you're a landlord in that poor community, is it really worth it for you to save your residents' heat if they're paying for the heat, or if the heat is included, you're going to have to jack up their rent to subsidize these additional costs that you're taking on. So naturally, you're not going to do it. Now, by the way, Mass Save does an awful lot more than just Energy Star windows. My hunch is that's the cheapest option that you can try to take advantage of. You know, heat pumps, solar panels, all this other stuff that's out there costs a heck of a lot more. Right? Now, maybe you can buy an appliance and save a few bucks. I don't know what, I didn't bother looking that up. But look, what the auditor told you is 100% true. She didn't need to do an audit on that. She just needed to slap somebody in the face and say, hey, can you exercise a little bit of common sense to realize if I'm giving you $7,500 towards a product that costs $400 to $3,000, you're not going to be able to afford it anyway. And I'm only going to be giving that $75 to the rich folks who can afford to do it. And are probably going to do it as part of their home improvement to jack up the value of their home and save their energy costs. Duh. Come on, folks. Wake up. Don't be dumb. Don't be dumb. It's simple math. Simple math. And you can see it right there in black and white. And if you don't believe me, Google search this info for your own. And again, the auditor's report is on the mass.gov website, also on the state auditor's webpage. She released her findings on September 29th. I'm not lying to you about any of this. I'm giving you their numbers, but I'm telling you, you should have known this all along. All right. If I haven't ticked off folks enough for one day, I do want to take a quick moment to talk about battery energy storage systems, also known as BESS, B-E-S-S. the discussion was kind of fueled, well, about a week or so ago, my friend Danielle McFadden from the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce had a podcast where she talked to the two of the individuals involved with this BESS facility, battery energy storage system facility that is proposed for the town of Tewksbury, which immediately jogged my memory because about 6-8 months ago, I got an email, or actually a voice message from somebody who I still don't know who it is, and I don't. They told me not to call them back. I didn't need to, but they wanted to express their concern about this battery energy storage system proposed for Tewksbury because they were worried about safety. And it was coming on the heels of a massive fire. I forget where it was, but there was a huge fire earlier in this year at one of these battery energy storage facilities. And I'll refer to them as BESS from here on out because it's more easy for my twisted tongue to say it. But, you know, you see the stories where electric scooters and with lithium batteries catch fire, phones with lithium batteries catch fire. These BESS facilities store their battery power, their energy, their electricity on lithium batteries, giant lithium batteries, and they're popping up all over the country. Naturally, there are folks in Tewksbury who are upset about this. And as we're kind of seeing from the Markley discussion here in Lowell, it's quickly going to become a quote-unquote neighborhood issue, perhaps an environmental issue, and a whole bunch of other things. And that's where I'm curious, and I'm going to touch on this briefly, but in the coming weeks and months, as this Tewksbury BESS facility starts to go further into the process and the opposition to it starts to solidify, not just in that town, but in the neighboring towns, it borders, I believe, on Lowell and maybe Billerica, and you're going to start to see this start to play out. Quite frankly, you're going to start to see this play out everywhere across America and across all of our communities. And why do I say this? Well, much like I told you that the Mass Save program was subsidizing rich people's energy savings at the expense of poor people's, it's common sense. You want us to go to 100% carbon free, don't you, Massachusetts? The state, the overwhelming number of Massachusetts elected officials and leaders want us to go to green energy. Conversely, it stands to reason that most of the residents in the state who overwhelmingly elect the people who have put these zero carbon emissions and 100% renewable energy standards and goals into place, you keep voting them in. So common sense dictates that this is what you want. Well, if this is what you want, BESS, battery energy storage systems, are part of the dealio. Just like if you want energy efficiency through Mass Save, part of the deal is you're going to subsidize rich people doing it if you're poor. This is part of the deal with the push to renewable energies and the goals of having a 100% renewable energy grid, which, by the way, is pie in the sky and whatever. Your only hope for that is nuclear energy. But let's not even bring up the topic of little mini nuclear reactors in cities and towns and neighborhoods, which, by the way, is your future. Remember, I told you that. I told it to you months ago. I'm telling it to you again now. But if you want 100% clean energy, then you need the batteries to store that energy and be able to produce that energy on demand for peak usage hours, which in Massachusetts, being an industrialized modern state, overcrowded state, is quite often. Now, there are other ways of storing energy. You don't necessarily need to rely 100% on batteries. You certainly can use geothermal. But as we saw with the cancellation of that geothermal project up on UMass Lowell South Campus, Wilder Street and Broadway up there, they nixed it because it got too expensive. That too is expensive. So before we can get to these other ways of storing green energy and having it ready on demand, BESS, battery energy storage systems, are the leading way to go today in 2025. So you better be prepared for this discussion. Or, I don't know, maybe you want to be prepared to say, let's look and see if we can find some cleaner ways of natural gas or other fuels that might keep us in the 21st century and get us to the 22nd century without putting these lithium battery sites all over our streets, our neighborhoods, and our cities and towns. You got to decide, folks. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So residents of Tewksbury, are you ready to fight back? Are those of you ready to fight back against this BESS facility, which is going to take years before they go through all the plannings and approvals and constructions and implementation into the energy grid? We're talking years. And again, I encourage everybody to go watch that podcast with Danielle from the Greater Lowell Chamber of Commerce. I think it was called the Chamber Chat Podcast. Very enlightening to very smart, bright young people. One of them with local roots, as a matter of fact. His grandfather owned Lowell & Hartford's, a sports shop on Prescott Street in downtown Lowell. It was a fascinating discussion, and it kind of, it got me thinking like, all right, yeah, there are safety concerns and safety issues that need to be taken, but if you want to go to 100% green energy by 2030, 2035, 2050, whatever your goal is, you better speed up the process of geothermal or nuclear, or you better find a way to love BESS. Who doesn't love BESS? Call it Bessie, famous cow's name. Anyway, all right, I've pissed off people enough for 30 plus minutes or so today, but I wanted to talk. These are stories I've kind of had on the back burner, and of course, ignited by the arrest of the Palisades Fire Marxist terrorist out there, the son of missionaries. I figured today would be a good day to play a little catch up, especially since I'm really forgetful and forgot to book a guest for today, and it was too late to get anybody in here by the time I realized it. So thank you for tuning in to today's Daily Pulse. Tomorrow, the live edition of the Daily Pulse. You'll be able to watch it live on InsideLowell.com and our YouTube channel at 10 a.m. We've got Mike Bacigalupo, Michaela Hondras McCarthy, a.k.a. Batch and the Hyphen. They're the Pod Squad. They'll be here along with the fabulous Lindsay, our newest addition to the Pod Squad, Lindsay Hanrahan. She reads all your feedback on the Shaw Farm Pulse line. Text it on in. We'll read it while the show is live. And if you want to send stuff in on Facebook and whatnot throughout the week, we're happy to share all of that as well. But it's the Daily Pulse Live, and it takes place at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And then it will be available for you at 12 o'clock on InsideLowell.com, which is where you can watch it live. Till then, everybody stay safe. Hey, stay warm out there today. It's a little bit chilly, a little bit brisk this morning. I had to run back into the house and get my Hellenic American Academy little sweat jacket there because it was cold as I took the kids to school. Please stay safe, and we'll see you on the other side.